Hey everyone, welcome to the part 2 of the online program of weekly discussion of our daily MCQs. So we'll just go into it. Question 13. Government has recently commissioned SACHET in coastal security. What is it? A. Offshore patrol vessel. B. Interception boat. C. Radar submarine. D. Submarine. So again, one must know what this is. So unless one has read the news, it's going to be really hard to make a qualitative guess. So it's actually an offshore patrol vessel, and we'll be learning about it. The ship ICGS, Indian Coast Guard ship, Sachet, is the first in a series of 5 offshore patrol vessels or OPVs being built by Goa Shipyard Limited (GSL). The IBs C450 and C451 are designed and built by the Larsen & Toubro shipyard. Hazira, the 30-meter-long boats are capable of achieving speeds in excess of 45 knots and designed for high-speed interception, close patrol, and low-intensity operation. So it's a factual question. One must just have an idea. Sachet is an offshore patrol vessel developed by the Goa shipyard. Next question. In context of Lipu Lake Pass, consider the following statements. This Himalayan pass is located in Sikkim state. It is an international mountain pass between India, China, and Nepal. Yes, quite possible. Again, one must have a very clear sense of geography to identify where many passes are located. So if you learn about that, you will notice that Sikkim does not have a pass known as the Lipu Lake Pass. Rather, it is Uttarakhand. So keeping that in mind, we can say the correct answer is option B. The statement 1 is not correct because Lipu Lake, with an elevation of 5,200 meters or nearly 17,060 feet, is a Himalayan pass on the border between India's Uttarakhand state and the Tibet region of China, near their tri-junction area with Nepal. And the statement 2 is correct because it is an international mountain pass between India, China, and Nepal. So if you see in the text in the slide, there is a clear-cut video, there's a clear-cut image showing where it's located and where the Uttarakhand state is, where Nepal is, and where China is. So keep that in mind while learning about certain passes and other geographical terms. So whenever you learn about any current affairs is related to geography, please refer to a map, refer to your atlas, identify where it is located, so that creates a visual image in your mind on where you must learn and where these places are located. So that would be a really helpful tool for your civil service preparation. We'll go for the next question. In this process, agriculture production is carried out according to an agreement between companies, government bodies, or individual entrepreneurs on one side, and economically weaker farmers on the other, which establishes conditions for the production and marketing of farm products. The above mentioned statements are pointing towards which of the following? A. Truck farming. B. Subsistence farming. C. Extensive farming. D. Contract farming. Now, truck farming, there's no mention of truck in this. Let's leave that. Subsistence farming is generally farming meant towards consumption of food for oneself, and there is no need for an agreement between companies or individual entrepreneurs with the economically weaker farmers on one side, because the farmer is making it just for himself. He does not have to ask anybody. So the second statement is also gone. Extensive farming, yes, it's quite possible, because there are companies and governments in one side and the farmer on the other side. But extensive farming requires large initial funding, and I don't think it's possible for a economically weaker farmer to do extensive farming. Contract farming, yes, quite possible, because on one side of the contract there is the economically weaker farmer who's making it for the companies and other other agencies for a fixed price which has been earlier negotiated. So looking at the options, it's clear that option D has a large possibility of being correct. We'll go towards the explanation. The answer is D. The explanation is, contract farming is the process of agriculture production carried out according to an agreement between unequal parties, either the companies, government bodies, or individual entrepreneurs on one side, and economically weaker farmers on the other, which establishes conditions for the production and marketing of farm products. So that is the explanation. We go for the next question. Which of the following conditions are favorable for formation of tropical cyclones? 1. Zero Coriolis force. 2. Large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius. And 3. High pressure area. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A, 1 and 2 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, 1 and 3 only. Option D, all of the above. Again, cyclone formation you'll be learning as part of your geography under the climatology part of your syllabus. So to know about it, if you have an idea of your climatology part, it's going to be definitely helpful. But all these things are something we've learned in our school days. So we may have forgotten it, but if we have a general idea, you'll understand that cyclones form in a low pressure area. That is, when there is low pressure in one place, winds from the surrounding area come towards that place. Yes. So there is a need for a low pressure. Whereas if it's a high pressure, everything will go away. There's nothing going to be attracted, rather it's going to be pushed away. So keeping that in mind, high pressure does not sound really good for cyclone formation. So you remove option 3, you will get that C and D gets eliminated. Then you have option A and B, which is 1 and 2 only, and option B, which is only 2 only. Clearly, the second statement is right. Then the only question is whether there is a need for Coriolis force. So whether it's zero Coriolis force or not. As you learn about it, you will understand that Coriolis force is highly necessary for cyclones to form. So keeping that in mind, option A, which is 1 and 2 only. We'll go for the explanation. The answer is B. Okay. Tropical cyclones are violent storms that originate over oceans in tropical areas and move over to coastal areas, bringing about large-scale destruction due to violent winds, squalls or very heavy rainfall and storm surge. Favorable conditions for formation of tropical cyclones are large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius, presence of Coriolis force enough to create a cyclonic vortex, small variations in the vertical wind speed, a pre-existing weak low pressure area or low level cyclonic circulation, and a upper divergence above the sea level system. So keeping that in mind, if you look at the previous statement, we need Coriolis force. It's not zero Coriolis force, so you remove option 1, and we need a large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius too. Keeping that in mind, yes, it is option B. Next question. Consider the following statements about FASTags. It uses Bluetooth technology to enable digital contactless payment of tolls without having to stop at all toll gates. It is a part of the National Electronic Toll Collection NETC program. And which of the above mentioned statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, and none of the above. So if you have been traveling recently, within the past 1 year, or you must have definitely crossed certain tolls if you have traveled across the highway. And many of the recent cars have been sticking FASTag stickers on the windshield of the car. So it is very clear if you look at it, this topic has been there in our current affairs, it's been there in our papers for over the past 1 year. It does not use Bluetooth technology, it uses something known as the RFID technology, the radio frequency identification tag. So keeping that in mind, definitely you can say it's not Bluetooth technology, it's the RFID technology. Remove option 1, you have it's either option B, 2 only, or it's none of the above. It is a part of the National Electronic Toll Collection Program. Yes, it seems very similar to that. So you can go for option B, which is more relevant to this answer. The correct answer is option B, and the explanation is NHAI, or the National Highways Authority of India, has rolled out a program for electronic toll collection on toll plazas on national highways to be called FASTag. Statement 1 is not correct because FASTags are stickers that are affixed to the windscreen of vehicles and use RFID technology to enable digital contactless payment of tolls without having to stop at its toll gates. The statement 2 is correct because the payment method is a part of the National Electronic Toll Collection Program. The National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, collects the payments. Go for the next question. In context of National Legal Services Authority, or NALSA, consider the following statements. The Chief Justice of India shall be the patron-in-chief of NALSA. It organizes Lok Adalats for settlement of disputes, and it provides free legal aid only in criminal matters to the poor people who cannot afford the services of a lawyer in any court. Yes, it's a difficult question. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 and 2 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, 1 and 3 only. And option D, all of the above. So unless one has a very clear idea of what is NALSA and what it does, it's going to be a real difficult question to tackle. But if you look at the third statement, it seems a bit tricky to say that it provides free legal aid only in criminal matters. It's not necessary that many people are stuck in criminal matters. There are lots of civil cases which is pending in our judiciary, property disputes to other issues. So to say that this NALSA deals only with criminal matters seems reducing the ambit of it a lot. So you can use that kind of logic to remove the third statement, and you can say that option C and D will be removed. Obviously, the second statement is correct, and the Chief Justice of India shall be the patron-in-chief of NALSA. NALSA stands for the National Legal Services Authority. The head of the judiciary is the Chief Justice of India, and it is quite possible that NALSA could have a patron-in-chief to be the Chief Justice of India. But if one has a doubt, you can go for either A or B. rather go with option A, which is the correct answer. NALSA has been constituted under the Legal Services Authorities Act of 1987 to provide free legal services to weaker sections of the society. The statement 1 is correct because as per section 3(2) of Legal Services Authorities Act, the Chief Justice of India shall be the patron-in-chief, and the second senior most judge of the Supreme Court of India is the executive chairman. Statement 2 is correct because it organizes Lok Adalats for amicable settlements of disputes, and the statement 3 is not correct because it provides free legal aid in both civil and criminal matters for the poor and the marginalized people who cannot afford the services of a lawyer in any court or tribunal. Okay, go for the next question. In context of Technology Development Board, TDB, consider the following statements. It is a statutory body of the Department of Science and Technology, or DST. It provides financial assistance to research and development institutions for commercializing the fruit of indigenous research. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, both 1 and 2. And option D, none of the above. Again, a Technology Development Board. It's a factual question. One must know about it to talk about it or to attend it. But at the same time, if you look at it from a general perspective, yes, it is quite possible. It can be a statutory body of the Department of Science and Technology. It's quite possible, and it can provide financial assistance. So, since the statements seem, don't seem to have any mistakes, and they seem quite logical in the sense, one can easily say that yeah, both C 1 and 2 can be correct, or option C can be correct. But this is just based out of instinct, and unless one has a very clear idea of what is happening around us, and if you read the newspapers not very consistently, it's going to be really difficult to take this question confidently, but rather one can make a guess. But the correct answer is definitely option C, and the Technology Development Board is a statutory body of the DST, and it supports the efforts of scientists and technologists and entrepreneurs towards containing the spread of COVID-19. So that's why it was recently there in the news. Statement 1 is correct because the Government of India constituted the Technology Development Board, TDB, in 1996 under the TDB Act of 1995 as a statutory body to promote indigenous technology and adapt imported technology for wider application. And the TDB is the first organization of its kind within the government to commercialize the fruit of indigenous research, and it plays a proactive role by encouraging enterprises to take up technology-oriented products. So clearly both the statements are correct. You can read the explanation. One can get a better idea of it. Okay. Next question. The Kaleshwaram multi-purpose lift irrigation project on the Godavari River sometimes appears in news. Is a project of which of the following Indian state? A. Kerala, B. Karnataka, C. Maharashtra, D. Telangana. So clearly, if one has zero idea, just looks at Godavari. Where is Godavari? It's in the central part of India. You can remove option A, which is Kerala. Then you are left with Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Telangana. Karnataka is a bit towards the southern side. Godavari is a bit more towards the northern side. So if one is even more clear about it, you can say that Karnataka, even though a part of it, does not really matter in that. So you can remove Karnataka. Maharashtra, Telangana, quite possible. Kaleshwaram lift project has been in the news for many times because it is highly important, and it's a part of the Telangana state, and this project is being implemented in Telangana. So look at the explanation. The Kaleshwaram lift irrigation scheme of Telangana is a multi-purpose irrigation project on the Godavari River in Kaleshwaram, Bhupalpalli, Telangana. The project starts at the confluence point of the Pranahita River and the Godavari River. So it's a very important project which the Telangana government is undertaking, and this has been in the news recently for many times. So that is why this question was asked. Consider the following statements, which is the next question. Consider the following statements about the Light Combat Aircraft LCA Tejas. It is an indigenously designed and developed multi-role light fighter jet. Second statement, it is the first supersonic fighter developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or HAL, and it will replace India's aging MiG-21 fighters. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A, 1 and 2 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, 1 and 3 only. And option D, 3 only. If you look at it, Tejas is India's indigenous multi-role light fighter jet. So the first statement is obviously correct. It has been present in the news for so many times. So you can definitely say that the first statement is correct. So keep that in mind. Option A and C is the only thing which is left. So it's either 2 or either 3. It is the first supersonic fighter developed by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL, or it will replace India's aging MiG-21 fighters. Now, to say it is the first supersonic fighter developed by HAL seems a bit too much, because HAL has been involved in this for many decades. But it is quite possible it will replace India's aging MiG-21 fighters because India has been trying to improve its Air Force capability. So keeping that in mind, we'll go for option C, which is 1 and 3 only. The answer is C. Explanation statement 1 is correct. HAL Tejas is an Indian single-engine delta-wing multi-role fighter designed by the Aeronautical Development Agency and HAL for the Indian Force and Indian Air Force and Indian Navy. The statement 2 is not correct because the Tejas is the second supersonic fighter developed by HAL after the HAL HF-24 Marud. And the statement 3 is correct because it came from the Light Combat Aircraft Program, which began in 1980s to replace India's aging MiG-21 fighters. In 2003, the LCA was officially named as Tejas. The next question. Consider the following statements about the Pinanga andamanensis. It is a species of palm designated as endangered by the IUCN. It is endemic to South Andaman's Mount Harriet National Park. Which of the above statements are correct? Option A, 1 only, option B, 2 only, option C, both 1 and 2, and option D, none of the above. Keeping this in mind, it's again a factual question. It's related to the environment. Pinanga andamanensis. It's a very bit of a mouthful. So unless one knows very clearly about it, we will not be able to tackle this question at all. But just have an idea whether it's an endangered or critically endangered, what is the difference, and where is Mount Harriet National Park located. You'll be learning about the IUCN, about Mount Harriet National Park, what is a national park, what is endangered, everything as part of your syllabus. So just take it as a fact for you to learn. Just keep it in your mind. Definitely you will be able to take this question. The correct answer is option B because it is not an endangered, rather it is critically endangered species of endemic palms reported in Andaman Islands, and its entire population of just 600 specimens naturally occurs only in a tiny evergreen forest pocket in South Andaman's Mount Harriet National Park. So rather it's critically endangered. You'll understand what is the difference between critically endangered and vulnerable and near threatened and least concern classifications of IUCN when you start preparing for your static part of your environment syllabus. Go for the next question. In context of Saharias, consider the following statements. They are an ethnic group mainly found in forests of Jharkhand and Odisha. They are a particularly vulnerable tribal group. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 only, option B, 2 only, option C, both 1 and 2, and option D, none of the above. So Saharias, ethnic group found in forests of Jharkhand and Odisha, particularly vulnerable tribal group. Again, a fact. One must know where the major tribes of India are located, whether they are in the particularly vulnerable tribal group sections. So if this is a factual question, one must know about it to attend it. So rather the Saharias do not belong to Jharkhand and Odisha, rather they belong to Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh area. So keep that in mind. So the first statement is wrong, and they are a PVTG or a particularly vulnerable tribal group. So the correct answer is B, and the statement 1 is not correct because the Saharia or the Sahar or the Seharia or the Saharia are an ethnic group mainly found in Morena, Shiopur, Bhind, Gwalior, Datia, Shivpuri, Vidisha and Guna districts of Madhya Pradesh and Baran district of Rajasthan. Statement 2 is correct because the Saharias are a particularly vulnerable tribal group. Go for the next question. The Forest Rights Act of 2006 guarantee or recognizes which of the following rights to forest dwelling scheduled tribes or FD/ST and other traditional forest dwellers or OTFD. Right to ownership of land, right to extract minor forest produce, forest management rights, relief and development rights. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 and 4 only, option B, 2, 3 and 4, option C, 1, 3 and 4, and option D, all of the above. Keep this in mind. You'll be learning about the Forest Rights Act. So just understand this is an act which gives the rights to the forest dwelling scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers. So what will the rights be given to those people who are living inside the forest themselves? If you keep that logic in mind, even if you don't have to learn about this act, you just look at it. Since they are living inside the forest, definitely the ownership of land should go to them. The right to extract minor forest produce, something like honey or lac or small something like resin or something, will definitely go to these tribes and the people who are traditionally dwelling inside the forest. Forest management rights. Yes, they are living inside the forest. They should have a right to manage the forest. And relief and development rights. Yes, any development brought to them should be with their permission, with their welfare in mind. So they should have a say in what is coming as development and what is coming as relief. So technically looking at it, it seems that all of the above is quite possible. The correct answer is option D. And the FRA of 2006 recognized and invests the forest rights and occupation forest land in forest dwelling scheduled tribes FDST and OTFD who have been residing in such forests for generations. There are 4 types of rights, which is the title rights. It gives the FDST and OTFD the right to ownership of land, but to a maximum of 4 hectares. And use rights, they can extend minor forest produce grazing areas to pastoralist routes, etc. Relief and development rights also, because for rehabilitation in case of illegal eviction or forced displacement and to basic amenities subject to restrictions for forest protection, one can have relief and development rights. The forest management rights, which is the right to protect, regenerate or conserve or manage any community forest resource which they have been traditionally protecting and conserving for sustainable use. Yes, that right is also given to them under the Forest Rights Act of 2006. We'll go for the next question. What is the less invasive surfactant administration or LISA sometimes seen in news? A. It's a medical technique for treatment of lung disease. B. Technique for detecting COVID-19. Technique for safely disposing of hazardous waste. And D. Technique for remediation of oil spills. Again, it's a factual question. It's a recent innovation in science and technology. So, if you had read the newspaper, one would have a general idea of what this talks about. So, the correct answer is option A. It's a medical treatment for treatment of lung disease. And the explanation is, a recent medical technique known as less invasive surfactant administration, LISA, has been started at J.K. Lawn Government Children's Hospital for treatment of lung disease or respiratory distress syndrome among premature babies. And the procedure, started initially for newborn children with a birth weight of less than 1,500 grams, has yielded encouraging results. And LISA has been developed as a lung protective strategy for respiratory management and ventilation in view of the mechanical ventilation causing damage to the preterm lungs of newborns. So it's a new technology developed for lung medication. Keep that in mind. And that is all for this video. Thank you.